Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to break down the TV series KATLA, which opens with an extended volcano eruption. The name of the volcano is called KATLA, K-A-T-L-A. That is the show we're going to look at today. This is the Wikipedia page. It's a Netflix series. There are captions. I'm not going to show you the dubbed scenes, but I'm going to translate it for you. But the reason why this series is important is because it seems to coincide with current events that are happening in the world. We're talking about Burning Man and the mud ritual. We're talking about the mud flood in Libya. We're going to talk a little bit about those two events today. Because in the TV series KATLA, the volcano spews ash all over this town that's on a glacier. And it depicts the relentless mud all through the town as the characters trudge through the mud. There's something happening, you guys. The mud ritual is manifesting into our reality. Now, I have some theories about why this is, why it's happening, how it's happening, and what it means on a spiritual level. We're going to break all that down today. But many of you probably noticed the recent event in Libya that killed, they're now estimating between 11 and 20,000 people. This is on the heels of the Burning Man mud event. Let's read about the mud event that happened in Libya. And then we'll get into the TV series KATLA and break down the volcano mud ritual and what it might mean. Let's look at some of these photos here. This is just shocking. Here's some before and after photos of what is happening in Libya. Huge mud flood. They're calling it a mud flood. Just devastation and death. Huge amounts of mud. The whole theme is about the mud. This can't be an accident. It can't be unrelated to the Burning Man mud ritual. Let's read about this. Images taken by satellite show the physical devastation from a flood that killed 11,300 people so far. Some estimates are as high as 20,000. How did this happen? Well, two dams above Derna burst early Monday under the pressure from rain dropped by a storm. The pent-up water swept blocks of low-lying downtown Derna out to the Mediterranean Sea. So this was sudden. There was no time to get out of the way because no one really knew these dams were going to break. Many said they heard loud explosions as the dams exploded. Wow, they exploded. That's interesting. Usually the word exploded is associated with the bomb, isn't it? Not breaking, because they would have said they heard the dam break, not explode. A flood several meters high rolled down a mountainside into the city. Images made about 400 miles above the earth show that the storm left a brown layer of mud. So they're mentioning the mud. It's all connected, you guys. Untold numbers are buried under mud and debris. That includes overturned cars, chunks of concrete. The death toll is through the roof. Now, what is going on with the mud, and how does this relate back to the TV series KATLA from 2021? Well, I'll get into that in a minute here. Let me check in with you guys. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Let's begin to break this down. So, this is KATLA, and basically, it's about a woman who emerges from the volcano covered in ash mud. Now, I looked up the name KATLA, and it actually means pure. And so this is what they're trying to depict these creations as. These hybrid human clone creations that come out of the rock, the black rock. Now, this is all about rebirth in the image of the beast. These aren't real creations. They're copies or clones of creation. And they emerge out of the black rock. There's something to this. Now, we haven't even got into the corporation BlackRock and all the significance of that, because I want to focus now on setting all this up, the symbolism behind BlackRock and what it represents to the enemy and how that will play into the end times. But here is the volcano erupting. There you saw the lightning bolts. This is the opening of the entire series. Of course, lightning bolts link back to Tlaloc, who is now we realize is Moloch. Tlaloc carries lightning bolts as a wand, and he requires child sacrifice, children thrown into the volcano. This is all about mud rebirth through sacrifice. Now, let's keep watching, because everyone in this little town starts getting sick from the ash that's in the air. And really what that represents is infection. Watch. Are the locals anxious to return home? I'm going to read these captions for you. Yes, I would think so. But since the eruption shows no signs of stopping, we don't have many answers. There they're scraping the ash off of the red roof, shocked that they didn't put a blue roof in here. Everybody's wearing face masks. Now, this released during the pandemic, so I'm not going to claim that they predicted the face masks of the pandemic, but it's interesting that they're reinforcing the face masks, right? It's all about sickness, illness, it's all about infection. So they find the first woman that emerges who's reborn out of the ash, and she's caked in mud. The burning woman. What happened to her? She's in shock and doesn't understand us. Here's another scene. This man is the sheriff and his wife here, who is sick from the ash. She looks at his shoes because he's tracking in mud.
Here you go.
This woman is the nurse. She says it's clear she can't stay in this climate much longer. She's been getting worse since the eruption started. And here they are wiping the mud and ash away from the survivor. And the nurse says, I'm not exactly sure what this is. Yes. It's like a mixture of ash and clay. Maybe she fell into a puddle of ash, and here she is laying in the bed. Gosh, this looks like Tlaloc, doesn't it? Oh boy, but it's an angel. Then we get a raven. There has to be a raven, right? But the raven is altered. What's wrong with the raven? The raven has a white wing. A white feather. And this raven hangs around the camp. He never goes far. What does this represent? Well, let's take a look. He says, the raven's back. Huh. The one with the white feathers. Yeah. Yes, he never goes far. The raven then dies, but it's resurrected after it's buried in the black ash. Now, what's this about? Well, obviously, this is a reference to Noah. Has to be, right? Because Noah released a raven and a dove. The dove never came back after the last time Noah released it. It must have found land. This is about hybridization, because the raven and the dove represented the two bloodlines. the unclean, and the clean, right? And through rebirth, there is salvation for both if you believe in Jesus Christ. But if you're reborn in the darkness, in the dark side, then there is no hope, right? So that's what this is really about. So he buries the raven. What's going on with you? So basically, this is this guy's daughter. They're kind of estranged, and the dad actually recognizes the woman that came out of the volcano as a former lover from 20 years ago. There you see the white feather, the one white feather. And what this one white feather really represents is just the little bit of DNA that the enemy is going to need to clone people to the dark side. So you got all dark raven with one white feather. And that's just the genetic information that they need to clone.
Pabbi í alvörunni svaraði mér. Þekkist greinilega. Pabbi, ég bara reyna að finna út úr hver þessi kona er.
So his daughter's like trying to figure out like why he's so bothered by this woman coming into town, but for him it's like he's seen a ghost. Now this woman runs a hotel, and she's like a witch. She essentially knows what's going on because it's an ancient myth from the area in Iceland of changelings emerging out of the volcano. And of course, no one believes her until they start seeing these events manifesting in the little town. She says she looks exactly like the girl at the clinic.
Veistu hvaðan í Svíþjóð?
I have old pictures of her, and it's uncanny.
Your mother, is she in Iceland or what?
No, she's here in Uppsala.
Are you sure?
Yes. Why?
So that boy was the son of the woman who's been cloned. So sometimes the volcano clones people that are already still alive, and sometimes it clones people that are dead. It doesn't seem to matter. It's almost as if anyone who came into this area and breathed in the ash and breathed in the pathogen were then cloned by the volcano. And it seems to thrive off of and manifest through emotion. So anytime there's a strong emotional bond or an emotional event, the volcano will manifest that clone of whoever is feeling those feelings. Now, the Ash Woman is recognized by a few people in the town as a girl that went missing like 15 or 20 years ago. And the death of the crow is symbolic of the death of the girl and the rebirth as a combined being or a clone. Dark crow and a white dove together. Here he sees the actual crow resurrected after he knew that he had buried it. What's going on at the glacier as another clone emerges out of the ashes? She looks like the Swedish one. And so now you understand what the X means and why we saw the X at the end of the movie Moana. Remember when Moana shapeshifted into an eagle at the end of the movie? And he became, and you saw these X's in the sky. Remember that? Now, some of you said that they might be spreading lithium through the air. Maybe that's a catalyst to all this in this transformation. And this is why they're not so concerned that they are also under the skies that are dropping this stuff, because they want to be transformed too, you know. So those are just some thoughts about chemtrailing and stuff like that. But now we know why they renamed Twitter X, because all of this is about xenotransplantation. I think we finally figured out what the X is. X is xenotransplantation. And now you know about Scientology and the X-alien Xenu, X-E-N-U. This all goes back to X's, and this is why Xenu of Scientology sacrificed people to volcanoes. Remember that? We read that yesterday. It's all about a new race of humans called the X-Men. They're basically chimeras. They're part alien, part human. Xenotransplantation. Let's read a little bit about xenotransplantation, the X-Men. It's basically an artificial method of creating an animal-human chimera. That is a human with a subset of animal cells. Now, what I'm thinking is what X means to the people that control this world and the agenda that they want to foist upon us. This is about alien transplantation into humans. A xenomorph. Kind of like the Alien franchise, where the alien inserts into a human. So, let's keep going with this. Because next, we hear about the Black Rocks. Black rock. Now, I know that volcanoes are made out of black rocks, but what are the odds of all this connecting? Black Rock City, Black Rock Beach in Lahaina. What are the odds of that? So, this next girl that emerges from the volcano, her name is Asha, like ash. And then directly after that, we get our first mention of Black Rock. He says, did you know that some of this tephra, the black rocks, shows the same reading as the ash from the ice you sent me? Now, the witch seems to be the one that knows exactly what's going on, but very few people listen to her. And here you're going to hear her talk about the volcano swallowing people whole and spitting them back out as changed beings. And she calls them changeling. Just like how Tom Hanks got swallowed up and spit back out in the movie Joe versus the Volcano. Here's what the woman has to say. This wouldn't be the first time KATLA swallowed someone whole.
Svo sem ekki fyrsta skipti sem að KATLA gleypir einhvern með húð og hári og spýtur.
And spat them out way later. It started with a glacial outburst flood after Christmas, followed by an enormous shower of ash. In the spring, a girl was found buried in the ash. People believe that she was a changeling. There's something strange going on here. So then the volcano keeps manifesting dead loved ones. This man is a volcanologist who came to the volcano because he knew something strange was going on based on some readings. And no sooner does he show up that his dead son manifests. Then they mention the flu. of 1918. We are going to try to find these ash layers from 1918. Now, in the TV series, 1918 and the pandemic connected to the eruption of this volcano. So they're studying layers down in the glacier that connect to the year 1918. But then they mention the flu. He says, no, I think I'm getting the flu. I'll just stay inside. Then they find a girl underneath a generator. So there's your electrical connection. Underneath a generator that's in a shed, she finds her dead sister and realized her fate. She basically crawled under there to try to stay warm and died. But then her copy emerges from the volcano. Now, the black ash infects everything in the town, just like a virus. Everything it touches is tainted. It's made sick. It's altered. And throughout the series, they show these wild sheep roaming the town. And some of them fall dead after crying black tears. So the black tears are the telltale sign of the infection. And here her sister, Asha's sister, describes finding the copy or the original of her underneath the generator. She says she was all shriveled up. But I could have sworn the body looked just like her. Now let me back up, because I believe the sheep represent humanity, altered by alien technology, from which clones will emerge. Copies of God's creation. Now I'm going to go back into the chat, because this is important. The Bible says that the last days will be like the days of Noah. In other words, we've gone through a timeline that has built and is now about to give birth and start to break down again. We came in and now we're going out. So it makes sense that many of the things that were in the Bible will begin to repeat, won't they? Well, many of you remember the shows that we did on the first 6 generations of mankind. 6 on Cain's side and 6 generations on Seth's side. And we showed you how each side had names that were almost identical. Doppelgangers, clones. There were 2 Enochs, one on each side. There were 2 Lamechs, one on each side. 2 Methuselahs, one on each side. In these last days, will things begin to reduce back down to the doubling of people? I believe that's what the enemy is trying to recreate, and I believe that's what the enemy was able to accomplish in the first 6 generations of man when he broke humanity into 2 pieces by causing the fall of the garden. The Cain line was a copy of God's holy bloodline. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it seems to be pointing back to all of that. Now, if you want to do a really cool Bible study, because don't take my word for any of this, just go back and look for yourself. You can even Google search Seth's line and Cain's line family tree, and you'll see the 2 bloodlines side by side. All you got to do is draw a line between the names, and you can see for yourself with your own eyes, and you won't even believe it. You'll be like, wait a minute, those Irad is Jared, and then there's 2 Methuselahs, there's 2 Enochs. What the heck is going on here? Well, I think we figured it out. The enemy was able to infiltrate or infect the human bloodline and break it off into two, doubling. And that's the real proof, isn't it? That's the real proof that Cain is not completely human, isn't it? The real proof is in the duplication of the bloodline. Genesis 4:1, I got a man from the Lord. Well, the word from also is translated in other places in the Bible as the word against. The same word, instead of saying from, it says against. I got a man against the Lord. So you have to ask yourself, is that what happened? Let's keep going here. Because I believe it's all repeating. Uh-oh, did you guys get bumped off? Did we lose? Let's see here. Yeah, I recommend that you go back and actually look at the two bloodlines and see for yourself and connect the dots and do your own Bible study. The two bloodlines are actually mentioned in the Bible. That's why they were able to write them down. Cain is a separate line than Seth and Adam's bloodline. Cain is not mentioned in Adam's bloodline. They're two separate bloodlines. His father is not Adam. Otherwise, he would have been listed under Adam's bloodline, but he's not. Let's keep going with this. Now, in this part, they talk about the generator. Remember, the generator is the electricity. It's the lightning bolt. It's Tlaloc. It is the mechanism. It's the catalyst. Somehow they're going to use electricity to bring this in. And this is why this whole electric revolution is so important to them, because it actually represents the symbolism of how they're going to achieve this. And this is why there will be almost no flesh left had God not cut those days short. It's going to have something to do with this. As the last generation of normal people that aren't copies, as we begin to die off, then the next generation will be like clones of other people from different timelines. Essentially what they're doing is they're recreating what they did with the pharaohs. Remember the pharaohs and how our presidents are essentially reanimated pharaohs. So they make a golem somehow, and then they transfer the spirit of the demon into the golem from the DNA of the deceased pharaohs that are in the black goo, the black canopic jars. This is why they preserved the organs. It wasn't because the organs were important. It's because the organs held the DNA, which is now reduced down to the black goo. And somehow they use electricity. This is a very important component to all this. So they want to spread that out to all of humanity. They want all of humanity to be a dark side counterpart of a real creation. Why do you think they're promoting this whole test tube baby thing and immaculate conception without a true mother and father? It's because that will be the way that the enemy tries to get in to God's creation. So here, the sheriff is explaining. He says he's basically questioning how they found this girl underneath the shed, underneath the generator. He says, why were you digging under the generator shed? There were cracks in the window pane, she said. As she's putting her hand in the black goo, the DNA. I suspected someone had crawled under the shed to find shelter, she says. Now, what else is going on? Well, there's another electricity aspect to this. The lightning bolt. The lithium electrical batteries and the Tlaloc lightning bolt volcano god. So throughout the series, The electronics don't work. The cars keep dying. So, at a certain point, they all start realizing that these are not their dead loved ones. They're just copies. They're altered. They're changed. They're changelings. Here, the volcanologist is talking to the witch that runs the hotel. They said it was a changeling, and she had to leave it. And he's like, changeling? She's like, yes, a changeling. A child of the hidden people, placed in the care of humans. She wouldn't listen.
But who am I to question the nature of things? I just have to try to accept them. You two existing at the same time, that's absurd. But who am I to question the nature of things? The sun comes up again. We're young, we're old, we're born, we die, everything goes round and round, and it's absurd. And it's obvious.
So this guy, he's got his lover who's now aged like him, but then she's cloned from the volcano, and he sees her the way he met her when they had their affair 20 years ago. And so he's got these two women who are clones of one another in the same room, and he's like freaking out.
You two are the same person. It's obvious. I can't explain it, but everything in this universe repeats itself.
Wow, right? Now, I got up to episode 7, and I'll finish up the last 2 episodes for Sunday's show, because they literally go into the volcano and they find a black rock that's actually is what's giving birth to these clones inside the glacier, inside the volcano. I literally couldn't believe it. So I'll show you the rest of the episodes of KATLA, and I also decoded the first episode of a brand new series called Changeling. Literally a 2023 series called Changeling. And it has much of the same themes as what's featured in KATLA. But wow, all the elements that we were talking about, black rock, electricity, clones, hybridized ravens, changelings, it's all happening right now. Let's go into the chat. So what happened, you guys? Did someone get knocked off? It seemed like we lost a bunch of people at a certain point in the stream. I'm in the chat now. Yes, the rocks were literally giving birth to these changelings. And it was weird. It was like, and I'll show all this to you on Sunday, but essentially the volcanologist goes down into the glacier, and he basically finds this rock, and it's literally living rock. It's like moving, and then you see like it moving around, and then you see faces in it, in the rock. But when he goes down into the glacier, he enters through what looks like a birth canal, as we said in yesterday's decode. So the glacier represents a birth canal. It represents the source of where this new creation will be born out of. It will be born out of the melted glaciers. That's what they will say. They will say that it happened from the glaciers, from some pathogen, just like in the X-Files series. That's what releases the black goo. It comes out of the ice cores that they drill in the Antarctic. And that's what they will say will happen. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. The rock's crying out, says David. Some people said we had buffering. No knockoff, so most of you were able to stay live without buffering. Yes, the movie The Thing ain't buying it said that. I think that was also the source of the pathogen. It was like the living rock. Now think about this. Juxtapose this to what Christ represents. He is the rock, right? And so the dark side version of Jesus would be the black rock. In other words, rebirth through the black rock of the devil instead of rebirth through the rock of Jesus Christ. Everything has an opposing side to it. Good versus evil. I think people get turned off by the subtitles, maybe. Maybe that's part of it. All right. Yes, the cornerstone they rejected. Yes, they'll blame it on the sun. They'll blame it on the melting global warming and the melting glaciers. This is what they'll blame it all on. I have a feeling that one of these seals that are broken in the last days, and the pestilence and the four horsemen will be part of this as well. That whatever illness will be released in the last days will have something to do with this cloning aspect. Yes, the black rock at Kaaba and Mecca, Steve, it says. That's probably a precursor to what will manifest in the short future. In other words, the people of Kaaba and Mecca will tie that rock back to whatever's going to happen. It will be connected, in my opinion. They'll connect the two. All right. X-Files new what? Okay. Now, wait till you see this new TV series called Changeling. Let me show you the IMDb from it. Boy, this is crazy. Well, here's some scenes from KATLA. And this really demonstrates the birth ritual, right? So you've got the birth canal here, and them emerging out of the birth canal of the glacier, born out of the black rock, right? Now, I would recommend this series, but the subtitles is very difficult to get through. So if you have Netflix, you can watch it dubbed, and it would probably go a lot easier. But this almost drove me mad trying to decode this because I hate reading subtitles. But I did it for you guys because it was very important to cover this series. And luckily, it's almost done. I got a few more episodes, and I don't think there's a season 2, so we should be good there. But look at the Changeling. They've got Kabbalistic yarn on their wrist. There's Apollo. This guy's name is Apollo. The number 45 and the numbers 47 appear in the first episode. There's a birthing ritual. You know, people get upset when I tie Trump into this, but this is all about Trump. The 45 and the 47. Literally in the first episode, you guys. And this guy's name is Apollo. And he's half black and half white. That's Apollo and Artemis, the sun and moon. So, like I said, I'm only on the first episode of this. Only the first episode's been released so far. But this is definitely ties into all this as well. And so I'll present this to you guys on Sunday. Crazy times, you guys. Now, we did just as much on the when Obama was in power, we found that he was likely a not reincarnated, why do I keep saying that? Reanimated pharaoh as well. Same thing, the black goo, the DNA. They basically recreate the body of the pharaoh, and then it's possessed by a demon. That's how they do it. And so, you know, we spend just as much time on him, but every once in a while there comes a president that has deep spiritual meaning, and Trump is definitely one of those presidents. Biden's kind of like an empty suit, like they messed up. They messed up the possession ritual on him. He only got like half the demon. he got like half, so he's like just like stumbling around, like kind of like half possessed. The empty suit. So now make no mistake, he's furthering the agenda as well. But really, who the enemy has to trick are the conservative people like us. That's who the enemy has to trick. We're the people he has to do the most work to deceive, because secretly they all want the whole world to look like the left. They're just not telling you that. So they have to present to you Republicans in name only that trick you into believing that they're really on our side, but essentially they still push the agenda. So what is Biden doing? Well, he's furthering the electric kingdom, of course. The largest lithium mine in the world, opening basically above Black Rock City, Burning Man, to further the electric kingdom. So that's where everything's headed with that. So I'll see you guys back on Sunday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I love you. Take care, everybody.